Good evening, friends. And I think this is the first time you're seeing me in this new look. I've been to Tirupati recently, and I decided to give off my hair to Lord Balaji. Having said that, I've prayed for everyone, and I hope all of you come out with flying colors. Okay, so now the topic how to approach this income tax paper at the intermediate level is something that you guys should be familiar with. Okay. So, how do you actually approach this paper? Is it a tough paper? Is it easy paper? All of that, let us put to the side and understand how do you first gain confidence? How do you get a good score in this paper? The bottom line is that's why all of us are preparing. That is why all of us have been spending a lot of our time, effort into this. Now, what is the institute expecting of you? The institute is expecting you to understand the provisions of income tax in a very simplistic manner without too many complications. First, get this straight. They are not going to test you on your memory skills. They want to know whether you understood the concepts, the intention of legislation. They want to know whether you have an idea of how to compute income. They want to know whether you know what is the liability of tax of a particular SSC, a person. Having said this, if you look at your intermediate portion, it starts off from who is liable to pay tax to, of course, filing of your return of income and basics of assessment. We are not diving deep into the more complicated topics. Now, in the intermediate level, they have focused a lot on the heads of income, the computation under each of these heads of income. And from the last, should I say, 10 years, the time that I have been teaching and I have been analyzing these papers, I can tell you one thing. They want to know if you are good in computation of income. They want to know if you have understood the concept. They are not going to test you on your memory skills. And one of the first questions that came up in our chat today is, are we required to learn section numbers? Now, I've told this before and I'm going to tell this again. Knowing the section number is good. Not knowing it is also okay. But you must have an idea of where the provision is from. For example, if a simple question like there is an SSC doing business and he has made a payment in the form of cash to the tune of 25,000, is it going to be allowed? Yes, if you know the section 40A3 disallowance, very good, no problem. If you do not know, at least you must know that it is a disallowance. You must know that in the computation of profits and gains from business and profession, there is something called disallowance, and such a payment which is made in a mode other than by way of account pay check or account pay draft will be disallowed. Of course, subject to certain exceptions which are in Rule 60D. Having said that, now sometimes it so happens that in your examination, you must have learned the section and you must have forgotten it. It's okay, it's absolutely fine, it happens to everyone. Even a person like me keeps forgetting sections, and this is the truth. Don't worry about it. Sometimes I keep forgetting sections, but it does not mean that I am going to put a wrong section there. I'm just going to say, as per the provisions of PGBP, I have forgotten or I am not so sure which head of income, because there are certain sections which are similar in nature, especially when it comes to valuation. There is a section in PGBP as well as a section in capital gains which says if the sale consideration is less than the stamp duty value, correct, then you must take the stamp duty value for the purposes of computation of whether PGBP, whether capital gains, that put aside. But you are not so sure and you have been asked a question, you can say as per the provisions of PGBP or as per the provisions of capital gains, no problem at all. So don't worry. So now, what are the important topics? Correct? What are those topics that you must focus a lot on, especially because now you're in the last lap of your preparation? correct? You have maybe another 10 days before you attempt. And knowing this, what is important is smart study, correct? There are certain topics which, if you analyze over the last 10 years, that is 20 attempts, there are certain topics which have been asked again and again and again. Of course, topics like PGBP, topics like capital gains, basics are extremely important. These three topics are extremely important. And for those who have never seen a question paper, for those who are going to attempt for the first time, let me tell you, as far as income tax is concerned, there are only 4 questions which are going to be asked. Of course, the first question in your paper will be a 14 marker, correct? And the next 3 questions, that is in section A, which deals with income tax, the first question is for 14 marks, a compulsory question. And the next 3 questions, which is also for 14, 14, 14, you can answer any 2 out of the 3, correct? So overall, in section A of your paper, you are going to have 59 marks in income tax that you need to answer. Now remember, out of these 59, you must answer only 42 marks, which is relating to the theory. Of course, the remaining 18 marks come from your multiple choice questions. So don't worry on that. Let's concentrate on the first part. Section A, which is for 59 marks, and you have to answer only 42 marks. Means what? That means 17 marks are surplus, 17 marks extra. Now think logically. The first 15 minutes of your paper, when they give it to you, when you read these 4 questions, what should you first decide? You decide, apart from the first question, that is the second, third, and fourth, which 2 you are going to answer. This becomes very important. Now, let me tell you a secret that I have understood. When you read 4 questions and you've decided that I'm going to answer question number 1, 2, and 4, you've left 3. Tell your brain, Baba, do not go to 3 again. First, in this 15 minutes, first you decide what you want to attempt. It becomes extremely important for you to be crystal clear and let your brain think only on those questions that you want to attempt. Leave aside what you don't want to attempt. And at this point, let me also tell you an important thing. Since you have an option to leave something in the examination, is it necessary for you to touch any new topic today? Please get this straight. If you have not touched a topic until now, I know some of you will keep some topics till the last bit. Acha, main last mein kar lunga. Please stop. Don't do that topic. It's okay. You have a choice. Now you might say, sir, what if that question only comes in question number 1? Remember, question number 1 generally comes on computation. So I'm sure most of you, or I should say all of you, would have already done at least the total income problems, the computation problems from PGBP, capital gains. Topics that you might have left out are those small tedious sections which you might have chosen not to do, correct? Small TCS provisions or advanced tax provisions or calculation. These are the smaller topics that you can choose, that you can afford to not touch at this point. Please do not do any new topic before your examination. That is my first advice, and that is the most important advice. Correct. Next, please do not discuss at this point of time with your friends about sections and your capability of replicating them orally. I still remember a lot of them when I used to take physical classes. I'm saying this because now last 18 months there are no physical classes, but when I was taking physical classes, I could see students coming into the study centers, could see them coming into the academies and talk to each other. Hey, do you know this section? Orally tell. And what happens is sometimes you might know it instantaneously. Remember, your memory is also like a memory of a computer. You have your RAM and you have your ROM, your so-called hard disk, and what is coming instantly to your mouth. And sometimes when you question each other and when you have this competitive spirit, especially before the examination center, outside the examination hall, when you quickly want to go through that section, please don't try this. Don't share with others what you think you know better than them, and don't ask others what You think they know better than you, because let me tell you one thing, all of us have equal minds. At least memory wise, we all have equal minds. It's how we focus our energies towards the exam. If you've left something, you've left something. If you know something, you know something. And remember, with the amount of hours that we spent in the classroom, in the videos, I am extremely sure, even if you do not know the provision, when the question comes in front of you, you will remember a story that I told you. When I was teaching you the section, you will definitely remember the story, the intention behind the legislation. You will understand why that section was introduced, how that section was introduced, when that section was introduced. I have made sure most of the videos will have this. Now, second, what I said, do not try to test each other. Third, be extremely confident in the fact that you can sit through the entire 3 hours 15 minutes, and please sit through that. Now, I told you before also, your memory is RAM and ROM. Sometimes when you read the question for the first time, you might not get the answer instantaneously. However, because you have read that question in the first 15 minutes of the 3 hour 15 minute gap that they give you for testing you, that your examination time, somewhere down the line, your mind will access that folder in your mind and give you the answer. And for that, you must have patience. There's a lot of difference between having patience and being impatient. Sometimes students get anxious. Don't worry, please don't get anxious. And all of us, remember, I also, as a student, studied. There was a point of time when there are certain sections that didn't even come to me. All I had to do is think back where I have studied this provision, what could have been the intention of the legislature, why did they introduce this, some problem that you must have done, some random page that you remember will get you to that. And you must have patience for this. You have to sit through the entire 3 hours 15 minutes. Remember, this is very important. If you sit through 3 hours 15 minutes, I'm telling you, most of the game is over there. That is, you are having 100% success if you sit through 3 or 15 minutes and concentrate on a paper. When I say sit through 3 or 15 minutes, I'm not saying 3 घंटे बैठो, इधर देखो, उधर देखो, सामने देखो, पीछे देखो. No. This is not what I'm asking you to do. Think on that paper. Definitely, you will get it. And remember, what do you need to pass in the CA exam? After all, you need is 40 marks out of 120 marks. 1/3. And for exemption, you just need 60 marks out of 120 marks. I know it might sound little weird when I say it, but trust me, when I got my exemptions in the subject of taxation and people ask me how I got it, the only answer is I sat through the 3 or 15 minutes, looked into my paper, concentrated. And remember, nobody, and I'll put this in writing, nobody can learn the entire Income Tax Act. It keeps changing. In fact, what I know today might not even stand good for the next 1 year. So ICA knows this. The guy who's actually making the question paper also knows this. He's not there to test you. Oh, do you know perfectly? No, he wants to know whether you know the intention. And remember, if you have chosen to write about a question, if you've chosen to write the answer, give it your 100%. Give it your 100%. Be stern. Now, especially when questions like, is it deductible or not deductible? This is where I want you to be absolutely clear in your mind whether it is deductible or not. And first think, some people, what they do, especially when I've conducted these prep tests, I see student is thinking while he's writing, deductible hunga, deductible hunga, deductible hunga. Therefore, it is not deductible. Please give it 2 minutes of your time. Look at the ceiling, look down wherever. Correct? Give it 2 minutes. Think. What are the provisions which are relating to that particular scenario? And remember, more than one section could also apply. More than one legislation could also apply. Correct? Think. So, once you put in your mind, you've decided, okay, it is deductible, write it that way. And then don't test from your bajwala. You'll get caught. Okay? Don't do that. Having said that, as far as Some people are already saying, I have not done advanced tax and TCS. I told you this. There are many people, not only you, man. You are not alone. There are many people, and when you say I have not done, I am assuming you mean you have not revised, you have not done it in detail. Please, at this point, if you have not done also, don't do it further. Okay? It's bad that you have not done it, but don't try to do it now. It's something that is not possible in the last minute. You will only end up confusing yourself. Just pray that this advanced tax and TDS is a separate question in the paper and get rid of it. Okay? If you have not done PGPP, Aditya, it's a little dangerous. Please kind of rework on what you are saying there. Having said that, what else do you need to know as far as MCQs are concerned? Please remember, you have 18 MCQs to answer. Remember, your paper is 60 marks taxation, direct taxes, and 40 marks indirect taxes. In that 60 marks, you have 42 marks of theory and you have 18 marks of MCQs. And this 18 marks of MCQs, if you have listened to every single class of Indigo Learn, let me tell you, you should be getting 18 on 18. Let me tell you, I'm only saying if you have listened to it, you should be getting 18 on 18. There is nothing less than that. However, sometimes your mind might not have been at its fullest. So let's fairly assume you're losing only 3 marks there, you're losing only 4 marks there. Give it your best shot. Think every question that you answer is worth a single mark. So even if you take half an hour to answer 15 marks, it's absolutely fine. No problem. Take your time, think about it, then only put your paper. Having said that, as far as certain sections are concerned, please remember the intention of legislature is the most important. Okay. The institute, especially when it comes to amendments. Now, a lot of you might have seen that amendments are carrying a lot of marks in the last 4 or 5 years, that is the last 8-9 attempts, correct? 9-10 attempts. Straight from your amendments part, there is almost 10 marks that is coming. Now, if you are a smart learner, if you are a smart worker, if someone is telling you that by reading only the amendments, you will be able to get 10 marks. What is that thing that you must do just before you enter the examination hall on that particular day once you get up in the morning? People keep asking me this question. What should I do from on that day of examination, from the time I get up till I go to the examination hall? I'm telling you, amendments is getting you the highest mark. It is in one particular place. Just give a brief reading. See, it's wrong on my part if I say don't do anything. It's wrong on my part if I say sit with a new topic, because it's never going to happen. It's wrong on my part if I say, okay, last day, put your hands to struggle and start solving problems. No, please, keep your hands need rest. What is the thing that you must do? Go through the amendments, go through your RTP. You're great on that day. If you do these two things on the day of your examination, trust me, you will come out smiling. And if you really know my mobile number, you will call me up and thank me. Having said that, okay, so these are my tips for you in the last few days of your examination. Do not get stressed out. Remember, we are all human. You tend to keep forgetting sections. That's fine. Remember, as long as you know the intention of legislature, there's nothing that's going to go wrong. You are not going into a war. You're just going into a place where they're just going to test you. They want to know if you are capable of getting 40 or 60 marks out of the 120 mark paper, which I'm sure you'll all get through. That's not, especially with my subject, I'm extremely confident of my students. So not a problem at all. Having said this, I would like to dedicate the next 15-20 minutes to answering the questions that you have. If you have anything in specific, for those who don't have any specific question, you're free to log out and don't waste too much time here. Go and study. So if you have any specific questions, please feel free to ask them. Yeah, it's absolutely okay to do a lot of mistakes in some. Remember, the more mistakes you do while you're solving on your own, the more learning you will do. Remember this. If you are looking into the question and solving it on your own and going wrong, you should tap yourself and say, "Aaj maine kuch naya sikha. Today I have learned something new." If you are doing everything right, then what's the point? Of course, the point is that you already know it. How should your preparation be a day before the exam? A day before the exam is a thorough revision of everything. And when I say thorough revision of everything that you already learned, that's why I'm saying revision, not learning. Do not learn before your exam. You need to revise what you've learned before your. It's better to be thorough with the little knowledge rather to be vary and know everything little. If you know everything little, there's no question that you'll be able to complete. If you know thoroughly certain part of your portion, that 70% of your portion, if you know thoroughly, Baba, the remaining 30% kaise bhi they've given you an option. Don't worry about it. Remember, 17 marks out of that 42 marks is 40% option they've given you. Either you attempt it or you don't attempt it. I have done everything but not done total income question. Remember, total income question book, there is nothing great. See, clients come to me. Some clients only have PGBP. Some clients only have salaries. Some clients only have IFOS. Some clients only have capital gains. I'm able to serve these 4 clients. Don't you think I can serve a client who has all incomes, PGBP, capital gains, income from other sources, salaries? Of course. Don't remember, total income is just a summation of your heads of income. So if you have done all the heads of income and you are telling the truth, whether or not you do total income problems, it's okay. But I would always advise you to do total income problems because it is a kind of practice for you to make a bigger sheet. Now, because this question has come up, let me tell you, as far as presentation is concerned, very important. Your handwriting may be neat, may not be neat. No problem. It has to be legible. People reading on the other hand, your invigilator, your paper corrector should be able to read what you want to communicate. And it must be presented well. When I say presentation, I'm not talking about your handwriting skill. I am talking about the fact whether you have nicely demarcated, whether you started every question on a separate page, yes. Whether you've drawn your right side margin so that even if the paper at the edge cuts off, you're safe to go, yes. Whether you have dedicated space for your working notes. And remember, working notes should be given for every single thing you want to do in capital gains indexation also, say refer to working note number 1. You want to do multiplication also, refer to working note number 1. Please do not assume that the answer is very simple. Everybody knows. A lot of them, even when they're calculating something as small as exemption under section 1013, a house rent allowance, they will write exemption is equal to, they'll get the answer orally in their mind. Their minds are working. But invigilator will not believe that fact. Please say exemption, refer to working note number so and so, down somewhere. Every page you want to draw, you just leave 6-7 lines and draw. Remember, it's okay to take more papers. You have, ICI has not put a restriction number of papers. So take as many as you want, keep drawing, or in that first 15 minutes, draw all your things. Working notes. Be eligible and present properly. And if possible, whenever you say answer, put 2 lines under that. Correct? Whenever you say you've drawn, let's say, a balance sheet, or you've drawn a profit and loss account, or you've drawn a computation, write amount in rupees on top, particulars, serial number. These are very important things. When you get the final answer, put 2 lines down. They're very small things that make a major impact. And trust me, I shouldn't be telling you this, but in my CA final, I knew that there was one computation that I did very wrong. And if you see the marks that I got, about 90s, I am sure that my presentation was so, and my handwriting is the worst. You all know it. You've seen me writing. So it's not, I can vouch for handwriting not being neat. but presentation being perfect. Presentation is key. I'm sure the examiner would have seen how beautifully I presented, the fact that I knew the subject and would have given me marks for it. At least some marks. If not full, some marks you would have given me. Going forward, better to solve. Please, it is better to solve or do audit. Obviously, you must solve the. Remember, solving 2 problems is equal to reading 10 or 15 problems. Lot of us have a habit. See the question, see the answer. Abba, kya kiya ba book wala. Jo author hai usko income tax aata. Baba, author knows income tax. Don't worry about the author. It is you who is supposed to see the question, do the answer on your own, and then compare your answer with the suggested answer. How to remember the provisions under the head salaries? How to remember? See, that's what I'm saying. If you have not yet understood what I said, I'm repeating it. You do not need to remember the section numbers. Whenever I tell you a head of income, in your mind there must be an outline of that head of income. Suppose I say salaries. What is the first computation step that has come to your mind? You know, salaries is what? Basic plus your allowances plus your perquisites. Correct? This is what gross salary minus your so-called deduction, standard deduction. You must have a basic outline. Then how to treat basic? You know, whatever is your basic, you simply add it into your outer column. It forms part of computation. Then when you talk about allowances, there are certain exemptions there. So you will put allowance in the inner column and then subtract if there is any exemption and put the taxable amount, put the amount that forms part of computation into the outer column. So these are things, the outline. When I say PGBP, suddenly in your mind, you must know that there are 2 ways of solving direct method, indirect method. Correct? If it's direct method, what are you doing? Incomes minus deductions. If it's indirect method, they've given you a profit and loss account, you are taking a net profit as profit and loss account plus your inadmissible expenditure, correct? Minus your deductions that you've not yet considered in the profit and loss account, minus the incomes that are not forming part of this so-called PGBP, plus whatever. You should know the outline. If I'm talking about capital gains, you must know sale consideration minus expense or transfer, net sale consideration minus cost of acquisition minus cost of improvement, that is your capital gains, minus your deductions, you got taxable capital gains. First, you know the outline. Once you know the outline, it's very easy to proceed further. Sir, enabled to attempt 100 marks, how to manage? There's ample time. Don't worry about time. If you are not looking right, left, and whiling away your time, for taxation paper, you have a lot of time. Unlike other papers, because I have seen students complain about papers like accounts. I have never seen students come out and say, time bas nahi hua for taxation. You have a lot of time. Don't worry about that. All heads of income are correct answers of total tax liabilities. Remember, there's always step marking in your ICI. Don't worry. Whatever you've got correct, they will give you the marks. How to recall and apply exact provision? Like I told you, whenever there is a question which requires certain recalling ability, think from which part of the chapter or which part of the subject have you learnt that provision. If I suddenly come to you and say, there's a gift received by my son to the tune of 1 lakh from his friends, obviously, you know, gifts you studied in income from other sources. There is a specific section 56 to 10. If you don't recollect the section, that's okay, but you must have at least understood the intention. Up to 50,000, there is some exemption. Above 50,000 will become taxable. Okay, so something you must have. See, try to go backward. Try to understand where you learned that provision and from there get the answer. Sir, while revising, we should go with provisions or problems. Remember, problems and provisions go hand in glove. I cannot say whether to go with provisions or problems. Sometimes, if you are able to solve the problems, that means automatically you know the provisions. If you know the provision, you might want to solve some problems, correct? So, at the end of the day, is taxation a practical paper or is it a theoretical paper? I always draw a line somewhere in between. It is one of those papers which is neither practical nor theoretical. It is, should I say, a mix of both. It's an art. Krishna, don't confuse yourself by asking questions which you which are going to create more doubts in your mind. Okay, don't worry about the confusion that might see lot of. This is another thing. Don't think that you will get stuck, because if you think like that, you will get stuck. If you think it's going to be a smooth sail, it's going to be a smooth sail, or it could be a rough ride in between. See, when you get onto a plane, I'm sure most of you have got onto a plane. Do you think at the start of at the time when the air hostess announces, okay, boarding is done, do you think the plane is going to crash? Or do you think positively, oh, I'm anyways going to reach the destination? But if you are under the assumption that you're going to reach your destination, for all you know, you might just nicely sleep in your plane, and by the time you wake up, you're already at your destination. Income tax paper is like that. If you get too worried, correct, it might lead to problem. It's a very simple subject. It's a very easy subject. The questions are going to be extremely easy, and trust me on this. I have seen many students, 25,000 students plus in my last 10 years of teaching, and I always say this: if you think the paper is going to be hard and you want to stress yourself out, you will get stressed out. If you think that what you have learned only will come in the paper, then that only will happen. Could you please just guess and make model paper for taxation from past attempts? That itself is your model questions made by ICAI. You just follow that, no problem. You're, like I said, whatever. See, I will make one question on total income, 14 mark. I'm telling you straightforward, 4 questions. First question I'll give them total income. Second question, it'll be a mixture of PGBP and capital gains. Third question, I'm going to give you from something like clubbing of income, exemptions. See, there's nothing called it's an easy subject. Don't worry about it. Whatever paper I make, will the same question come in your exam? It may, it might not. So don't worry. You know everything. Don't worry about that. Sir, how the income tax department come to know if my friend gifted me 200,000 in cash, and how it? This question will never come in your paper. The friend who has gifted you 2 lakh rupees, please give me his or her number. They might want to gift me also, and after they gift me, I will tell you that answer. Yes, you all become like Tanappa. Very simple, straightforward. Okay, anything else, guys? I hope this session has been worthy. Last half an hour spent will boost your confidence. And yeah, remember, paper is going to be very easy. Yes, you have to follow Manjula J. Shah case, Sheikh. That is, indexation is available from the time the asset was held by the previous owner. And please make it clear when you are making any assumptions like this, refer to working note number 1. In working note number 1, right, indexation is calculated based on the judgment of Manjula J. Shah. Beautiful. If you make any assumption, put it as part of working note. Okay, thank you guys. It was a good time. Yeah, bye.